kind of buffering a little bit. All right, so we're live now. We got Austin here. We got Steve here on the Parenting in the Crossfire show. We're talking about whether or not it's cool or whether or not it's good or productive to spank your kids. So, I guess the first question that I have for you guys as the host, my name is Michael Lacy, for those of you who don't know. But my first question for you is more digging into your backgrounds. We'll start with Austin. So, how did your parents handle discipline when you were a kid, and do you think it worked?
Yeah, so my I was raised by my grandparents actually.
Okay.
They're in their 60s. I'm only 24, so that way you guys can have that in perspective. My granddad was on me. You know what I mean? If I was doing something I wasn't supposed to, I was getting a ass whooping. You know what I mean? So my grandma sometimes would be like, "Hey, maybe he don't need it this time," but no, my grandpa was heavy on that, and so that kind of put me into the perspective of I get it, but at the same time, I'm not doing it like he did. You know what I mean? If there's something
Right.
that really needs to be punished about, um, yeah, I'm gonna pull her pants down and whoop her. I got two girls, a 5-year-old girl and a girl that's about to be three, two different mothers, and so yeah, the way my grandpa did it, I'm not with all that, but I'm also not with it like just not doing it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Steve,
fair.
same question to you. How did your parents handle discipline, and do you think it
Oh
worked?
man, I grew up in the '80s, late '80s, early '90s, and buddy, anything was a weapon to get your ass whooped. That's the bottom line. I've had my ass whooped with water hoses and sticks and twigs, belts. My favorite one, I'll tell you right now, I remember it like it was yesterday, was my dad's silver lined leather belt. So on the top and the bottom, it had silver coils, and it
Yep.
was just straight leather from a cow that they had killed a long time ago.
That's tough.
And I remember that one like it was yesterday because I had whelps for days, and I mean days, and I was a teenager, so he laid into it pretty good. I'm very familiar with getting my ass whooped by my parents and my grandparents too, Austin. So I hear that.
And listen, if there are any of you dads that are watching this live on YouTube, feel free to comment. If you guys got questions, I'll be sure to shout those out as well. But getting back to it, so I'm going to start this one with Steve. Steve, when you became a dad, what made you personally decide to avoid spanking?
Wholeheartedly, it was my wife.
Okay.
My wife. So a little background about me personally. Did some military time, got out, and I was a Marine for 9 years,
Hoorah.
2007 to 2009, 16, raw, Jarvis. But I mean, hell, even when you're in the military, if you got a problem, just go out to the smoke pit, handle it, and get back to work. It just is
No.
what it is. But to get back to your question, what kind of circled me back to being like no spanking and things like that, it was hands down my wife. She is a very educated woman. She is very, very emotionally intelligent. And I mean, she's an intelligent woman as well, but emotionally wise, she really opened my eyes to I was not emotionally intelligent. I had no empathy, no sympathy. I had no feelings towards anyone for anything. And that cannot be understated. That cannot be understated. And now, as the years pass, and watching my son grow, and to me, I'll be honest, it's kind of like an experiment in a way. Not whooping my son's ass because there's days where I'm like, oh, buddy, you really testing these patients right now. You really are. And I think it was Michael that I told there was one time I whooped my son's ass one time and I just couldn't do it no more. I didn't feel it. I didn't see the point in it. I didn't see the purpose in it. I did the entire thing that my dad did every single time he whooped my ass. After he whooped my ass, he sat down right next to me until I got done crying like a little baby, hugged me, said he loved me, and said, "Do I understand why?" I was like, "Nah, man, I don't." But I hope that answers your question. It was just really hands down my wife and the love for my son.
Okay. So, Austin, I'm going to kick it over to you. So, what made you comfortable with spanking?
So I was in the Marine Corps too.
Right.
Typical E3. I got married and got divorced very quick. But a baby came with that, and so she was the same way as Steve's wife. She's like more of trying to find a different way of parenting other than just whooping ass. You know what I mean? talk about it or whatever she does. You know, we live in two different households now, however she handles it. Um, but now that I'm remarried, you know, I'm a little bit older, so I see life from a different perspective also. And my wife now, like she's kind of the opposite. She grew up in Albany, Georgia, you know what I mean, with her grandma. And
Sweet
so
peach.
yeah, so my wife is like you know, she's doing something that she needs a ass whooping for. She's, you know, I'm probably the one that's gonna give it, but you know, but
So to kind of
yeah,
kick
that's
this
just how
ball
it
back and
goes.
forth a little bit, Austin, I don't, I'm sorry to interject and I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt, but we
you're
seem to
good,
have the
man.
same
You're
answer
good.
with the wife, and I kind of want to interject at this
Yeah.
point, since it is kind of like an open debate, right? If I may, how old are your daughters? My son's 9, so how old are your
Yeah, I have
daughters?
a 5 year old, and then my youngest will be 3 in March. So
Okay, okay. So when you say they do something wrong, like what are we talking about here? Because to me,
so
a 5 and a 3-year-old, like what they don't really know much.
yeah, I, my daughters are smart, man. Like they know right from wrong,
Mm,
right? And I feel like especially the 5 year old, she's in school. You know what I mean? She knows right from wrong. She knows her manners. My If I put my 2.5 year old, or about to be 3, on the screen right now, she's yes sir, no sir, yes please, thank you. Her manners are on point.
mm.
So they understand right from wrong. You know what I mean? When they will do obvious things that like they know they shouldn't do, that's I don't really trying to think of something that they've done, but uh like my 5 year old, she is just very, her mom is the one that doesn't put her hands on her at all, right?
Hmm.
So she will she runs all over her. You know what I mean? When I step around, if she does something bad, I tell her, you're gonna get an ass whooping. You might want to knock it off. You know what I mean? Whether it's jumping on the couch or something she knows she's not supposed to do. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Um, that's the only time is like if I know that they know what right from wrong is in that situation because they've been there before, that's when it is implemented.
Okay, so I hear
Like
what
if
you're
she came
saying.
up right now and threw this box at my head or something, which she would never do. You know what I mean?
Right.
She clearly knows that that is wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's, yeah,
The
it's like
3-year-old
things like
maybe,
that.
but the 5-year-old clearly not. Hey,
Yeah, the
bud,
3 year old, she doesn't really get
I'm
a
on the phone. Can I
good look,
finish
you know?
this? Sorry, that's my son. You're on YouTube now. You always wanted to be on YouTube.
There you go.
Let me finish, buddy, and I'll get back to you. Okay.
Can you stay up here and just be quiet?
You can try. Yeah, I don't need any background noise or anything like that. Okay. All right. So kind of digressing a little bit back to and I appreciate your response for sure, 100%. When you say they do things that they know are wrong, my son does things that are classified as wrong every day. I sat down with him on Tuesday to do his math and science homework, and he is repetitive about forgetting his homework. I'll do it with him. His mama will do it with him. We can all help him, but at the end of the day, he just doesn't take it, and he forgets it, right? And he forgets it over and over. And that's just one example. But I mean, is that really worth whooping his butt over? No, not in my opinion. And I hear what you're saying about jumping on the couch. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is at some point there has to be a line, right? And I guess this is a more of a question towards you, Austin, is where do you let the kids just be kids and develop and experience? And yeah, it is the most frustrating thing on the parent side of the world as an adult to say, stop doing that. Just stop. At what point does spanking their
Yeah.
butts matter? Why do that?
I've just, I kind of told Michael this in the text messages before. I have two different kids in two different households. I see the difference just in with my kids. You know what I mean? How
Mhm.
my the like I don't know, man. I just see the difference. I
But
see other people's kids and my friends that discipline their kids the same way that I do, and then you'll see we see other families that discipline them like my ex-wife does, right?
mm,
And like that kid needs to be disciplined. Like you need to do something. Oh, but
mhm.
we've tried this, we've tried this, we've tried this, we've tried this. Well, how many different things are you gonna try before you whip that ass. You know what I mean?
But see, now
That's where I
that's the
keep.
thing
Hang
is you
on,
brought
Steve.
up a really
Hang on, Steve.
valid
Hold
point.
on.
You brought up
Let
an
me let me
extremely valid point right there. As you
let me
said,
let
you
me
talk
let me
to
interject real quick.
yeah,
Let me
go ahead.
interject real quick. So, Steve, I want to come back to you because I feel like this is an important point that we want to get out right now. So you're against spanking. So what are some of the methods that you use? Let's clear the air on that.
The biggest thing, the biggest method is patience. Just patience. And I, I I'll be honest, I do my best to remain calm, but if you ask anybody in the world, especially my son, if I'm a calm person, he'd be like, no, he's not calm. I do show my anger. I do show my frustration. That part is true. But that's just kind of part of it. That's just me handling my own personal emotions, and I truly feel like he can experience that and see that, and he can watch me grow, and that's fine. But the best way that I handle it is just patience and just really take a step back and understand and just be consistent. And that to me is what I wanted to bring up to Austin is you you're every man is in a different situation. Every man's in a different situation. So I'm trying to approach your situation with understanding and respect from where I'm at. I don't have two kids, so I can't say nothing. I would love to give my son a sibling for sure. It's just not in the cards. But one of the things, two things that you're saying that I can't really speak to, but I see a lot of my friends go through is multiple parents in different households, right? So you're putting a child in different settings, in different scenarios all the time, and that kid's just confused, bro. That kid is confused, and that really talks to the point that you brought up, Austin, is that you say that the other kid needs to be disciplined. You got to do something. You got to do something, and the other parents are saying, "Well, we tried this and we tried this." There's no consistency there. So I guess that kind of answers your question a little bit, Michael. Is what do I try? I try patience and I try consistency. As hard as it is, Lord, it is so hard, but I try it and it's working out. You ask anybody about my son. He's very polite. He's very well mannered. I mean, he's quiet. He's outgoing. He takes jujitsu. He's in gymnastics. He loves technology. I mean, he's a kid, man. So I hope that answers your question, Michael.
Yep. So a follow up to that, because I know people they may not put it in the comments here, but I know the thing that people are probably thinking because you touched on it earlier with Austin a little bit. So like when when you're talking about having patience and establishing patience, what do you do when a kid keeps testing that limit repeatedly and they're not responding to the different types of discipline that you're offering or the different types of correction? Like, what's your method for that, Steve?
So for me, I only have my son because it's not on me to discipline other people's children.
Sure.
If it does get to that point to where someone else's child is causing problems with my child, I'll talk to the parent and ask them to talk to their kid. But if that doesn't seem to be working, I'll just strictly tell my kid, stay away from that person. That's just a bad person. They're not mentally developed. They're not emotionally aware of themselves. And if you want to be friends with that kid, then you need to make them as aware as you are. So what I do with my son personally, to answer your question, is I take a step back. I calm down, do a little bit of breathing. I know that sounds silly or weird or whatever. Just clench my fist as hard as I can and put myself in that scenario and think about, okay, well, I'm 230 pounds and this dude's 60 pounds, if that. Why do I need to establish physical dominance over that? For what purpose? What is that going to do in the future to him other than mess with his head and make him want to do it in the future too? You know, as a kid in jujitsu, one day he will be able to become a weapon. One day he will be able to hurt people and protect his own family if needed. But yelling at them and hurting them physically, that just doesn't seem to do much. And I put myself in that situation to think, don't hit him. Just just don't hit him because it's just going to mentally break him. So the only thing that I ask him to do is let's take a break. We're both upset or I'm upset and we're going to have to readdress this situation later. And we'll take a break or we'll just sit there and just kind of be near each other, if you will, just be next to each other, kind of building that aura bond or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what that psychological stuff is, but just letting your member know, your family member know that, hey, I'm here. I'm in the battle with you. I'm right here, buddy. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving you by yourself, but we're clearly having a disagreement. I hope that
Yeah.
answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah. So Austin, I mean, what would you say to that?
uh, I respect that, especially that you're trying different things other than what was brought on you, right? Because obviously you didn't like getting spanked, or whatever made you change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my grandpa, I'm just gonna say what my grandpa would say is, so that that's what's wrong with this generation is y'all don't whoop them damn kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I just feel like I see my whole generation, like I was, I made a lot of bad decisions, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Not like horrible decisions, but like I did things that I wasn't supposed to do, you know what I mean? I'm trying to grow. I'm only 24, you know what I mean? But I see like the people that I grew up with that are a couple years older, a couple years younger in the same age group. I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with everybody? Like,
Yeah.
I just, I'm like, y'all really must have needed your ass whooped or something. Like, but I don't know. That's just what I get. Like, I'm just like, back in the day, everybody got their ass whooped. A lot of shit was different. Nowadays, everybody's trying the gentle parenting thing.
Mm.
Cool. I good on you for trying it, but as like a whole generation, a society, like I feel like the whole society, the whole generation just needs their ass whooped a little bit more. And I feel like I don't know, as people have gotten more like caring, I guess you could say, it's like people are being bad. Like
Hmm.
the
Okay.
parents care too much, and then the kids are, I don't know.
See,
Okay.
if I can address that real fast, Michael, or you got
Yep.
something?
No, go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So Austin, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you, and it's really interesting that this all came together last minute. It really is. Two things I'll hit on that you brought up. The first thing is you're 24. You're a grown man at 24. You got 50 years of life ahead of you. I'm 40. I'm a little bit ahead of you in age. It doesn't mean much else. It just means I have more life experience on this planet. That's all it really means. So what I'm trying to say is, I hear you on what your grandpa said or your grandparents said, because my grandpa was a bull rider. I have not met a man tougher than that man in my entire life, and I've been around the world 3 times over. This is a man that could literally take. We all know what a railroad is, or I guess most of us do. We don't know about what the kids know nowadays. They see a railroad and they're like, "Oh, how'd that get there?" But this man could literally bend a railroad spike. We know they're, about 1.5 inches in diameter, 4.5 inches long. He could literally bend it in half with his two bare hands. He had the strongest hands I've ever seen. And he used to say the same thing, Austin. He'd be like, I don't want to say GD word, but gosh darn kids, somebody need to go whoop that kid's ass. And that's just how it was, man. But as time goes on, right, and I look around, it really it really hits on the point that you brought up, Austin. It's this whole caring mentality and aspect, and I said gosh darn, and my son's telling me watch your language. So that's how my son is. This whole aspect of over caring, that's a thing, right? Because I don't treat my son soft. There's nothing soft about the way that I treat him. If anything, we were doing his homework last night, and I'm pretty sure he thought I was a drill instructor. And Austin, I know you know what that means. We're sitting there doing basic short division algebra, and I sat down and told him the straight truth in probably my best frog voice I could. I'm not your friend right now. I'm your teacher. I'm not your dad. I'm not your friend. I'm here to teach you. And if you can't get that right, we're gonna sit here until you get it right. So there's a lot of sternness in my voice, and there's not a lot of over caring. So I don't want to mix up what you're saying, Austin, with your words with portraying who I might be or what people might understand I might be. I'm not over caring and I'm not oversensitive and I'm not all this. I just refuse now to hit him. It just doesn't make sense. That's what this podcast is about, is spanking versus not spanking. And that is completely different than discipline and chastising. That's a big biblical thing, right? A lot of Americans, they're Christians and I'm Christian and my wife's Hindu and there's this and that, right? So when a lot of people, they say, well, don't spare the rod. Well, they always seem to remember that proverb, right? Don't spareth the rod, but they never read past that, right? But a parent that does not discipline their child hates them. So what they're, in my interpretation, right, is they're saying you don't have to spare the rod, but the rod doesn't have to be physical. There's nothing physical about it. It doesn't say it has to be an actual rod. A rod Your voice is the best weapon you have. That is the most menacing, the most threatening, the most absolute authoritative action you can do is use your voice. I hope that makes sense and makes you
Yeah.
understand, Austin. I'm not over caring and I'm not oversensitive to these situations. I'm completely
No, I
sympathetic
get
and
what you're coming
understand
from.
what you're saying, dude. And I see that too. And I'm like, honestly, they just try so many different things all the time. They're just not consistent, bro.
So let me ask. This is a question for both of you. We'll start with Austin on this first. So Austin, for you specifically, if a kid's behavior doesn't change after a spanking, does that mean that the spanking didn't work? And to you, Steve, I'll ask the same question. You talked about being firm and being assertive with your child. In those moments, if you do, have a situation where you are having to be firm and you're having to have that tone and that firmness with your child, but the action doesn't change, does it mean that your method doesn't work?
Austin, the floor is yours, man. The question went to you first.
Yeah. So my question was, if I spank them and it doesn't
And the behavior
change,
doesn't change, right?
kind of like where do you go from?
Or does that mean that the
Um,
spanking itself didn't work?
I don't really know because I haven't been in that position. I don't know. Like I don't really know because I haven't been in that environment, that position for that to have an
Okay,
opinion on that. I don't know.
that's
Mm.
fair.
I really sorry, I don't have a better answer. I
No,
just
you're good.
I mean, I can instigate that a little bit if you want.
Sure, go
You
ahead.
say you haven't been in that situation before, but you're representing dads that spank their children. You want to tell me that you have a 3 and a 5-year-old that you have spanked before for a certain cause, and they've never done that individual singular item ever again?
I'm sorry, it's cutting out. I can't really. Can you say
Okay.
that again?
So, as a dad with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, you're saying that you've spanked them for something, whatever the case may be, jumping on the couch or spraying water through the window while it's open or whatever, man. Whatever you've spanked them for, if you've spanked them for something, they've never done that again?
Um, that's a good question. Actually, I don't know. I think they no. I mean,
Yeah, that's fair, man. You know what's going on in
yeah,
that box
actually,
house. I
yeah,
mean,
and then I did it. Yeah, and then I would spank them again, but
mm,
they're I'm not gonna keep doing it. I get what you're saying. I'm not gonna just keep whooking them. No, at some point, and this I was gonna say this earlier. Every kid is different. I do believe
right.
that. Like every person is different. Every human being. So everybody needs to be treated different, also. And so, yeah, I feel like if you keep whooping them, like okay, then yeah, you're probably gonna need to try something else. But
So
I know after just from experience, after a couple ass whoopings, they might do it once, twice,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a third time, but they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
understand. Okay, that shit hurts.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that no more. That
hold
hurts.
on, Steve.
That
Steve,
oven's
before
hot.
you
I'm not gonna keep touching that. I touched it once. I touched it again. I'm not gonna keep touching it.
yeah, that's
before you
fair.
answer, Steve, we got a question in from Josh Green. I think this is more for you, Austin. The question is, what does spanking mean? Josh says there's a difference between slapping their hand away from a hot plate or an electrical outlet and putting them over your knee. So, what does spanking actually mean? I guess that would probably be more for you, Austin.
That's fair. Bless you.
Yeah, for me. So I noticed I would try to spank my daughter on the butt with like her like just bend her over and spank her on the butt, and she wouldn't it wouldn't even affect her. And I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna pull your diaper down and really not like I'm not hurting her, right? But it's like, oh, he got my attention with that one. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say a spanking is.
Okay.
I'm
Hopefully that
not like
answers
wailing on
Mr.
my
Green's
3-year-old. Don't get
question.
me wrong. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna pull it down a little and she might get a little, you know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah,
I'm whipping out a controller, spanking her, it's nothing
yeah,
crazy like that. But I'm gonna make it known like, hey, that shit's gonna kind of sting. Like you might not want to keep doing
right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So I want to come back to you, Steve, on that original question of if you're being firm and you're having that tone repeatedly on the same issue
Mm-hmm.
and the behavior's not changing, does that mean that it's not working?
I mean, that's a tippy topic question, right? Because it could mean that it's not working and you need to attempt a different approach to communicate with the person or the child, right? Because we've raised my son to essentially with this whole no spanking thing to treat him as an adult. You treat him as an adult, you let him make his own decisions, you let him process everything and kind of do everything. So if we have a talking with him and we give him a warning and we tell him this and this and that happens twice, then we sit down and we talk with them and we're like, why are we not getting through to you? Like what's not connecting? Like you go to jujitsu and you got to take your gi and you got to take your water. They got to be clean. You need your flip flops to get from the car to the dojo. Like what's not connecting here? And I think one of the things that you're trying to say if it's working or not working, if it's not working, I'm not going to, spank him a different way or spank a different part of his body. Respectfully, Austin, I'm going to take a step back and realize that I'm the adult. I need to attempt to approach this from a different scenario or a different angle, like a different angle of attack, Austin, right? You got to figure out the right way to hit the target. And then you got to figure out what really makes him click or her click in your case. And once you do that, once they get that light bulb moment where they're like, oh, that works. He just wants to be on camera. Sorry. He's like, oh, that works. Once that works and it clicks, um, you really don't have to worry about it anymore because now they're just building a habit. They're building a habit. They're building a habit. And that's all they're doing. So I avoided the whole process of causing what I would consider in this day and age of what somebody might label it mental trauma, right? And my wife tells me all the time, and this is a little bit off topic here, right? And I'm sorry for that, but it kind of hits the note on why I don't spank them. My wife brings it up to me all the time. She's like, "Well, you are possibly this way because you have a lot of buried trauma. You got a lot of buried trauma in there." And whenever I look back on it and I think about it, I mean, yeah, she's probably right. There's a lot of things that I just honestly don't want or I'm not willing to speak about to my own parents because I'm just like, what's the point? They don't mentally get it. They showed me how mentally far they're capable of going with me as their own flesh and blood to say, I'll deal with your problems. And if they can't help me with my problems, then what are we going to be able to talk about? I don't want to fight my dad. He's like 65 years old now. And it's just wild. So I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't seem to work, then we approach it from a different angle.
Okay. So we got a couple more questions coming in on the chat. I'll ask Candace first. Candace said, Austin, have you noticed that after spanking them, now you only have to threaten it more than you actually use it?
100%. 100%. I've only done the actual spanking probably not even a handful of times, but because I've done it, it's like, hey, you want that shit again? Like, you know what it was like. Like
Right.
that's what you're
Yeah.
gonna get. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, let's not do that. Okay, I'll
Hmm.
go do something else.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So good question. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
There's something to be said for that.
But it might go the same
Yeah.
way for Steve. He might
No,
how he
no,
does it. He
no,
might
it
tell
doesn't
his
go
son
the
like,
same
"Hey,
way
do
for
you want to
Steve,
have that
bud.
talk again?" Like,
It doesn't go the same way for me at all. No,
Elaborate on that, Steve.
yeah. Say that again.
I said elaborate on that.
And that's why I fully, like Austin said, every child's different, every parent's different, every household's different, and I fully 100% support the idea of what he's doing. If that's how you want to handle your home and your situation, brother, that's hey, good on you, man. It just doesn't work here. It doesn't fly here. Um, when I say no, it doesn't work that way for me. It, man. I mean, Austin, you probably know. I mean, you were quick in and out in the Marine Corps, but the best way I can probably put it is I don't know of any other parent that's in the same situation that I'm in, just because we're all different, right? That would be willing to sit there and have the patience that I'm having if they weren't a soft core inside individual. There's nothing soft about me on the inside. There's nothing soft about how I approach situations. But if somebody else was put in my same situation, I don't think that they could sit there and have the same talk every single day for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or however long it takes for him to build that habit. It just doesn't work that way whenever you sit there and you talk to him over and over, unless, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, there's no SSRN or scientific proof behind it that I've read or anything like that, unless they're just highly intelligent. The individual child is just far above intelligence amongst other children. They got to be told. I mean, I'm not even joking, probably 50, 75, 100 times before they even start caring. And that you have to get them to understand how to care. You have to get them to understand, a lot of things that most people aren't going to understand until they're teenagers. So that's where my son is. He's far, far emotionally advanced than any other child I've ever seen in my entire life. He takes into account other people's feelings. He takes into account a lot of things that most adults don't even do. But it comes with a grain of salt, right? It, it,
Yep.
it takes a lot of patience. Absolutely. Every morning we wake up. What do we drink every morning? What do we drink every morning? Protein shake. Every morning, he knows we drink a protein shake. That's routine. That's agenda. And what do you almost always never want to drink on your own unless somebody tells you?
That pussy.
That protein shake. So I'm
Grab my phone
for
charger.
yeah, literally a 40-year-old dude taking his child a protein shake every day, every day, every day. And I mean, sure, could I whoop his butt over a protein shake and be like, drink your freaking protein shake now? And I guarantee you, I can almost guarantee you, if I whooped his butt over this protein shake, he's not going to forget that protein shake anymore, or he's not going to say he forgot it. He's just going to make sure he does it because it hurts. Yes, stop, stop. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't work the same when you don't whoop their butts. There is something to be said about whipping butts if you're a supporter of it. I can't be a supporter of it in my house. And I must be patient and I will be patient because I don't want one of the last thoughts he to ever have of me is, damn, he really whooped my ass good. And I understand on the opposite end of the spectrum is, I'm glad he did it because that's the way I am. I want him to be able to grow up and say, he never had to whoop my ass. And I was able to grow up into a proper man, a proper gentleman, and do the things that I need to do to be a good husband. So, I mean, I hope that answers your question, Michael.
Yeah. No, 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 no. Yeah, that's good. These are from the audience. We got some audience
Yeah, yeah,
questions.
yeah. No
So,
worries.
Steve, do you feel like you have to repeat yourself when asking your child to do a task, or do they usually listen the first time he's asked?
They'll listen when I'm telling them to do the task for sure. But then if the same task comes up a different day, they'll overlook it. And I just have to remind them, and I'll have to remind them, and I'll have to remind them. And at some point, you got to start asking yourself as an adult, why am I still sitting here reminding them? And when you start as an adult getting frustrated, that's that whole step back mentality. Okay, let's sit down, let's have a chat. He needs to understand it's going to be a little bit more serious now if he can't seem to remember to wake up and brush his teeth every morning. Like, you wake up, you brush your teeth, you drink protein, you have a morning routine. You take a shower, you dry off, you brush your teeth, you drink your protein. There's a routine there. And he's on a very solid routine, and it probably took him a solid year to get responsible enough to have that routine. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, viewer, but when he doesn't listen, yes, I feel like I have to ask 1,000 times for sure. And there are moments I really want to whoop his butt, 100%, 100%. But that's where you have to utilize the tools that you have. You're an authoritative figure. You have to utilize that voice. You have to utilize things of this nature. And one thing I don't do is I don't threaten him. I don't give him verbal threats. I won't tell him, oh, if you don't do this, then I'm going to take this away. No, I'm just going to take it away. I'm not going to threaten him by, saying, if you don't do it, I'm going to take it away. What I do is I'll just take it away. And let's say the phone, for example, or laptop or whatever thing it is that he's into at that time, just instantly take it away. And when he's like, "Well, where did it go?" I'll just tell him I took it away because you're not listening very well. And until we can get your brain to slow down a little bit and just focus on the words that are being instructed to you to help you learn better, to help you build a better routine, you can have it back. But until then, You listen and you learn. And ironically, once things start getting taken away, he starts listening a lot better.
Okay. So this is a question for both of y'all. We'll start with Austin first. We're gonna slowly work our way to a close here. But do you think how you were raised? Both of you guys were raised being spanked, but you both have completely different approaches now as dads. So do you think how you were raised makes you biased in any way towards what you think?
I'll go first if you want me to, but I think that I don't think it was the way I was raised. I think it was, well, I don't think it was solely the way I was raised. I think it was the way I was raised, and then I see other people being raised other ways, and or other children being raised other ways, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want that to be the product of what's coming out. So that's, yeah.
Okay.
Mm. As for me, I'm 100% biased. I don't want to do that to my son. I don't want to put my son through what I went through. I mean, we can sit here and try to categorize spanking with not spanking all day, but as Austin clearly understands, there's so much more to it than just trying to categorize it, right? Whenever I say I grew up with spanking, I grew up with my grandpa that was a rodeo hand, my grandmother that grew up a very rough life. My parents, my dad was a drug addict, and my mom was just trying to deal with all of that and raising her babies. And I was one of them. You know, everybody's different. Everything is different. And so I can sit here and say I didn't want to raise my son that way. And, you know, I could be talking about spanking, but I could also be talking about a drug addicted dad that was doing the spanking, where that wasn't thinking clearly. So yeah, I believe I'm 100% biased. And again, I fully support anybody that wants to spank their children. Like that's y'all's choice. I have literally no qualms and quarrels with that. Like that's your kid. You do what you do, and I'm gonna do what I do, and that's all we can do. I'm not here to judge anybody. That's the bottom line. So yeah, I
Okay.
think I am biased. I don't want to do that.
Okay. So Josh asked a question specifically to Austin, but I want to ask this to both of you guys actually. Austin, we'll come back to you first on this one because it was addressed directly to you. But do you remember, he worded this as beating, but do you remember the worst spanking your parents ever gave you? What was it like and what did you do?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man, Austin, I think that's to you.
Yep, that's to Austin.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna go first. Yeah.
So no. Yeah. So yeah, what was the
I had
remember
I
the
remember.
beating? What was it like and what did you do?
Yeah. So I was in elementary school. I don't remember what year I was in, but man, I just did not like this kid. He was on my baseball team, and it irritated me that he was on my baseball team. He was in my class. It irritated me that he was in my class. I just we did not get along. And one day we were at recess, and I don't know what happened, but all I know is we got into it, and I got home. I got in trouble. You know what I mean? Obviously, we're kids, so there's teachers out there, so it got broken up. But I remember going home, and my grandpa. I think this was the first time he really pulled the belt out, and he whooped me with that belt, and he said, "You want to put your hands on people? 'Cause I'm gonna show you what putting your hands on people's like." And that he put that belt on my ass. He put that belt on my ass. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's just how it had to go.
Mm, yeah.
That was the worst. I got it. My grandma's like, please, please. My grandpa was not playing around with
Mm. Grandpas could be the worst, dude, for sure.
that.
Oh man.
That was definitely the worst though.
So for me, it was the leather lines or the leather belt that had silver lining
Oh
around it.
yeah,
I mean, we're talking about, they
Oh
made
yeah.
belts like they don't make belts like they used to make belts, man. They just
yeah.
don't. I don't know. Maybe because they realized that a lot of kids are getting hit with
Leather.
belts. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Now it's all leather.
Yeah, and no, this was 100% rawhide. I remember the big burned engraving stamp on it. But I remember one day, I don't know if y'all are old enough to know this or not, but you used to go to school and you had like this agenda book. It was like a book that you would carry to school, and your
Yeah.
teacher would write notes in it, and if you got a bad grade, they'd put the bad grade in there or whatever. And I was already on a really bad streak. I was on a real bad streak, man. I just stopped caring about a lot of things because of a troubled home, and I just didn't care about many, many things. But I ended up changing an F into a B. But I didn't even do it like in a smart way where you would have the letter F, and you just draw like a little part on it to make it a B. No, I wasn't smart at all. Like I thought I was the smartest kid ever. I'm just gonna white it out and then I'm gonna
Yeah,
put a
there
B
you
on it.
go.
And this was before they had all that fancy
It's
white
kind of like
out.
Photoshop.
Yeah, kind of like Photoshop, just with that old school whiteout where you have to like
Yeah.
dip the stick in and it comes out all clumpy. And I get home and my dad asked me, "What is this?" And I told him, "Oh, the teacher made a mistake. No big deal, right? Just she wrote the wrong grade for the wrong student." I thought I was slick. Well, my brother, I love my brothers a lot. We all did military time. We all hate each other, but we love each other. It's that brotherly relationship. And my brother's like, "No, no, he changed it." And
Oh man.
my dad's like, "Well, what was the grade? What was the grade?" And my brother said, "Hold it up to the light. You'll be able to see it." So my dad tried holding it up to the light, but I thought that through, and I was like, "No, I'm going to color out the F before white over it." So one thing leads to another, and he ends up getting out his little men carry pocket knives, and he scratches off the white out, and he sees a big black block, and he's like, "You blocked it out." And I didn't know what to say, and he lost his temper. And we're talking from shoulders all the way to thighs, back of my, the hamstrings on the back. It was just whelps on
But
whelps on whelps
deserving,
on
right?
whelps. I mean, yeah, to an extent, but I didn't think I needed to be bleeding over that. Like,
No,
dang.
not bleeding. No, not
Oh, I was
bleeding.
definitely bleeding blood. There was a lot
Yeah.
of blood involved in that. But I mean, not a lot. It's not like you needed to call a hospital or nothing. I didn't need no stitches or nothing
But
like
I
that.
bet
But
you probably never, ever did that shit again.
did it next week. Hand to
That's
God.
just your own
Hand to God.
dumbass
Did it
fault.
next week.
That's just your own dumbass fault.
Hand to
Yo.
God, but I did it next week. Two things. One, I made sure my brother didn't see me, right? And two, I made sure I did it better. So
Well, there you go. At
because
least
I'm
you
thinking in my
learned.
head, like, oh, I just did it last week. He's not gonna
Yeah,
think I'm gonna
you
go
learned.
do it
You
again
didn't watch
already,
it
right?
last week. Yeah.
So
Jeez.
I was a terrible, terrible kid. So I did a lot of bad things. But I mean, that's just kind of how it was back then. You do a lot of bad things and you live and learn, kind of like what you're talking about. And
Hmm.
I get it. It hurt a lot. And I thought twice about it before I did it again. I really did. But yeah, I did it again.
So Steve, follow up question for you, Steve, on that. I mean, that's an interesting point. So do you think that you would have benefited more from your current parenting style than you did from spankings?
Man, that's a tough
Just based
question.
on your personality and you know how you were.
Man, that's a tough question. That's like the whole time travel conundrum thing, right? You put a sandwich in the past and now it's there, but you want to bring it back. I mean, if I'm to answer you honestly, straight out, no, I wouldn't have changed anything. I would not have changed anything. I think probably with the world that it was, the way that it was back then, just trying to talk to me, I would have ended up in county and then state. That's where I would have ended up. I really do. I really think my dad whooping my butt probably put me on the straight and narrow for quite some time until there was a pivotal point in my life where something really bad happened and I lost somebody that was very close to me, and I ended up just joining the military because I couldn't deal. I just needed to get away from everything. But honestly, I can't answer your question because I don't know fully what the other side would have been like, and I
Sure.
don't know what the other side fully is like now. Like right now, my dad and I mean, my dad stays in my house, but he doesn't. He's never home. We never talk. We never do anything. It's just like he's a roommate. And I kind of feel like maybe that's part of the reason why I'm approaching the way I am with my son is I want to build that emotional connection over the physical one, if that makes sense. And my dad and I, we have a very thorough physical connection. Even to this day, I'm pretty sure he'd have a heart attack when fighting me, but I'm not going to fight him because I've seen my dad throw my brother through walls. Like, I'm not
Right.
doing that. I'm not
Right.
doing that. But at some point, I want my son to realize I'm here for you. Like, I'm here for you emotionally. And I don't have that feeling with my own dad. So
Right.
To answer your question, no, I wouldn't change it. But can I change what I'm doing and trying something different? Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate you gentlemen coming on and taking on this hotly debated topic with us. You guys did it with a lot of class and a lot of dignity. I didn't know how this was going to go. I didn't know if it was going to
Last
be
minute.
shouting or what. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I do have one final question for you guys. I want to end it on kind of common ground. Even though we have different methods, I just want to hear your responses to this question. And that is, what's the most important thing kids should learn from discipline, whether it's spanking or something else?
Respect. That's just the bottom line for me. Respect. You respect others how you want to be treated. You treat others how you want to be treated. You don't grow up to be a liar. You don't grow up to be a thief. You learn respect, because if you can learn to respect yourself and others, then it will carry you very far in this world.
What about you, Austin?
I agree with. I mean, you couldn't have said it better.
I'm old.
All right.
That's just what it comes down to. I mean, you got to respect people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yourself. You have to respect yourself too. So.
I mean, it is a hot topic, Michael. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me. I mean, we could sit here and chit chat about it all day. It could get a lot more heated than it was, but I think we both have a general understanding and respect for each other, and that's really, really what makes it what it is. And if you ever do want to have a heated debate, I'm probably not the person to call.
No, I appreciate it. Every debate doesn't have to be heated. I mean, we just wanted to get, again, opposing sides, because if people do live in these silos and these echo chambers where, the way that I always did it, the way my grandparents did it, that's the right way, whether on whatever side of the fence. And so we just want to get the conversation going, expose people to a different way of thinking, one way or the other. And so, again,
So
I
what are we gonna
appreciate
do?
you
Throw
guys.
up a vote so the chat can vote. What's up? No, I'm doing.
I think the chat. I definitely think the chat will vote as this as it goes on.
Yeah,
And you
you should
guys
do
can
like
definitely
a
come
one,
back in the
3, 5 year
comments.
follow up, because I'm really curious. Like, I'm not a girl dad, so girls' dads have like a whole different lifestyle. I'm really curious how you're gonna spank your daughters when they're 13, bro. Like, I don't know how that's gonna fly.
I
Or
hope
how,
that doing it now,
yeah.
I don't have to ever do it.
But you got to have that
That's
question in
my
your head,
plan.
bro. What happens if they are?
I'm
What
gonna
if
whoop
they
that
are?
ass.
So
Yeah.
they're just closing thoughts. That's all.
Yeah. Well, again, I definitely appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening to come and do this. And if nothing else, we'll see you guys in the Lone Star Dads Facebook group.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Have a good
Peace.
one, man.
Thanks. Bye.